Picture this. It's 2019. You are scrolling Instagram, and you keep seeing them everywhere. Those slick black boxes with the candy-colored logo. Everyone has a different flavor on the front. Gelato, sunset sherbet, wedding cake. They look professional, they're cheap, and your buddy swears by them. So what's the catch? Well, here's the thing. The company that made Dank Vapes never actually existed. There was no headquarters, no lab, no founder, nothing at all behind it. And by the end of that year, this fake brand would be tied to one of the strangest public health crises in modern American history, putting thousands of mostly young people into hospital beds and killing dozens. This is the story of how an empty box turned into a nationwide epidemic. Now, let's get one thing straight. Dank Vapes was never a real company. It was packaging, and that's it. We're talking empty cardboard boxes and matching glass cartridges that were mass-produced in the Bao'an district of Shenzhen, China, then shipped in containers to the port of Long Beach. From there, the boxes traveled to a 12-block wholesale stretch of downtown Los Angeles known as the Toy District, specifically areas like Santee Alley in the Fashion District. Leafly reporters in 2019 walked in and bought 1,000 Dank Vapes boxes for $120 cash, which works out to about 12 cents a piece. Anyone could buy them, and plenty of people did. That's what made it different from your usual counterfeit, because there was no original to even copy, unlike legitimate brands that we all know like Sty Izzy or Raw Garden, which operated in California's regulated market. Eventually, the CDC described Dank Vapes as a class of largely counterfeit THC products of unknown origin, which is a polite way of saying a product line with no producer. The reporter who broke much of the story, Emma Betuel, summed it up perfectly when she said people kept asking who runs Dank Vapes, and the real answer was nobody, and also everybody. So here's how the whole thing actually ran. Independent operators, ranging from kids in garages to organized crews in rented condos, would buy empty Dank Vapes packaging in bulk online from Chinese sites like Alibaba and DHgate. Then those operators would source unregulated THC oil out of California's black market, fill the carts, slap on whatever flavor sticker they felt like slapping on, and sell it as if it was a real established brand. And that wasn't even the worst part about all this. To stretch their oil and pump up their profits, a lot of these counterfeiters started cutting the product with a cheap thickening agent called vitamin E acetate. It is a cosmetic ingredient, perfectly safe in a vitamin pill or rubbed on your skin. It just happens to look like THC distillate. It had the same color and the same thickness. Wholesalers in LA were openly selling it under brand names like Honeycut, and it was ending up in the carts all over America. When a lab called Enresco actually tested some of these street cartridges, they found one that was nearly 35% vitamin E acetate by weight. And the more people looked into it, the worse it got. In Minnesota, a state lab found vitamin E acetate in every illicit THC cart it seized that year, when just a year earlier, there had been almost none. So it appeared almost out of nowhere, right before people started getting sick. By 2018, Dank Vapes were genuinely everywhere. You had Snapchat dealers pushing them and big Instagram pages posing as the real company. And the product itself looked just as legit, coming in hundreds of flavors, all named after real weed strains like Skywalker OG, Cherry Kush, Pineapple Express, and Gorilla Glue. But none of those flavors were real. It was the same product underneath, just dressed up differently every time. There were Dank Vapes hoodies and t-shirts, and the logo became recognizable to teenagers all across America. Industry experts estimate as many as 50 million tainted carts were floating around at the peak. And on the street, they went for $20 to $25 per gram, while the legal lab-tested equivalent in California cost 2 to 3 times that. So for a high schooler in a prohibition state, the math felt obvious. For a while, all of this just looked like a trend that would eventually die out. It was cheap and everywhere, no big deal, right? And then, boom, out of nowhere, people started getting sick. In April of 2019, doctors in Illinois and Wisconsin began seeing something they couldn't explain. Otherwise healthy young people, with a median age of just 24 and about 2/3 of them male, were showing up with severe lung injuries, struggling to breathe, oxygen levels crashing, and some even ended up intubated in induced comas. By August, the CDC had a name for it: EVALI, short for e-cigarette, or vaping product use associated lung injury. And on August 23, 2019, Illinois reported the first death. Then it exploded. Cases spread out all across the country, which peaked in mid-September, and by the time the CDC said it was too much and stopped counting in February of 2020, there were 2,807 hospitalizations across all 50 states and 68 confirmed deaths spread across 29 states. When investigators asked patients what they'd actually been vaping, one name kept coming up. In the CDC's December 2019 report, 56% of EVALI patients nationwide said they'd used Dank Vapes, and in the Northeast and South that number climbed past 60%, while one Illinois and Wisconsin cluster hit 66%. On November 8, 2019, Ann Shushat of the CDC stepped up to a microphone and named a chemical of concern. Investigators had pulled lung fluid from EVALI patients across 10 different states, and vitamin E acetate showed up in every single sample. A follow-up study published in the New England Journal of Medicine tested 51 patients, and vitamin E acetate turned up in 48 of them, which is 94%, while it appeared in 0 of 99 healthy people used as controls. So why was something safe to swallow yet so dangerous to inhale? Researchers believe that aerosolized vitamin E acetate coats the tiny air sacs in your lungs, causes surfactant dysfunction that sabotages the natural lung mechanics, and kicks off a violent inflammatory reaction resembling lipoid pneumonia. One paper even proposed that it can break down inside a hot vape coil into a toxic gas called ketene, which sits uncomfortably close to chemical weapon territory. The science is still being refined, but the takeaway really is not. While the CDC was racing to identify the toxin, police in Kenosha County, Wisconsin, were closing in on one of the largest counterfeit cart operations ever uncovered. On September 5, 2019, they raided a rented condo and arrested brothers Tyler and Jacob Huffhines. Inside, they found a full manufacturing line with tables, chairs, time cards, and employees getting paid $20 an hour. They seized 31,200 filled THC cartridges, roughly 98,000 empty ones, 57 jars of THC oil, and around $1.5 million in product, and the operation was reportedly cranking out up to 5,000 cartridges a day. Sheriff David Beth held a bag up to the cameras and put it as plainly as anyone could, saying it looks like candy, but it is not candy. It is highly potent drugs. After all that, the Dank Vapes name became radioactive. Counterfeiters simply pivoted to other empty packaging brands like Cake, TKO, Mario Karts, and Muhammad's. Vitamin E acetate largely disappeared from the supply chain, which counts as a rare regulatory win. But the illicit cart market itself never went anywhere. It's still enormous, still unregulated, and still hurting people in slower, quieter ways through pesticides, heavy metals, and unknown solvents. A Yale study by Abigail Friedman found something that's hard to ignore. States with legal, regulated adult use cannabis, places that had passed comprehensive legalization measures like California's Prop 64 and Colorado's Amendment 64, had 42% lower EVALI rates, and states that allowed home growing had 62% lower. The pattern jumps right out at you, because when you push consumers into a black market, the black market answers, and it does not run a quality control department. So that's it. That's the story of Dank Vapes. Had any of you ever come across this brand back in the day? If so, drop your experience in the comments below. And if you made it this far, do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives like this one. I'll catch y'all in the next one.